before the fight of the century between Holyfield and Mike Tyson, Tyson was in an interview and he was asked, "What do you think of Holyfield's plans for this fight?" His response was, "Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face." In retrospect, he should have said, "Everybody has a plan until you bite the arrow." Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, Mike Tyson was right with that statement. Everyone has a plan. Everyone in here has had that day where they planned an event and they went through it in their head 1,000 times, step by step, minute by minute, hour by hour, right? And they train and rehearse until that event comes and the events of life derail that plan. It happens to us all. For me, that punch in the face that Mike is talking about, which is the equivalent of a life event, happens so often that I actually started to prepare for the jab in the face right as things are starting to get where I wanted them to go on my plans. But the one thing that I had never expected, the one jab in the face, was after 13 years of marriage, my ex and I decided to end it. This was one of the toughest things in my life at that time. And what was tougher was having to sit my 13 and 7-year-old down and explain to them that we would no longer be together. There's not a heavyweight out there that could have hit me harder than to listen to my daughter and my son cry and ask those questions as to why. I had never planned for this. Whoever does. I didn't want to be alone by myself. More or less, I didn't want to have to learn to be a single parent. But I needed to find that resilience in me and figure out how to bounce back, because not only would I have to learn how to parent as a single father, I would have to do it from afar. Because no sooner than my ex and I decided to split, I was on the plane to Afghanistan. This was one of the hardest things to deal with because of everything that my children had just been through. But I had to learn to adapt, adjust, and figure out how to make it through this. I poured myself into my job, 18-hour days, mission after mission, day in, day out, and tried not to focus on home so that I could make it back home. And when I did, things got a little tricky. You know, the one thing about being deployed overseas is that you have the luxury of focusing on one thing. You don't have to worry about what you're wearing. You don't have to worry about where you're eating, any of that. Just focus on the mission. But when I got back home, I had to contend with more serious things, like picking up laundry, taking the kids to school, doing homework, all those things. But the one thing that I also would have to deal with was learning to be more emotionally available to my daughter as she was a budding prepubescent teen. I would also have to learn how to navigate my way and her way through the social media circles. Having to have those very uncomfortable conversations about boys and sex and drugs. I would rather have Mike Tyson punch me square in the face than to have to go through that ever again in my life. My son, not that bad. But there was another thing that I had to learn how to deal with. being a single guy. So, just like all the other newly single people in the world, I turned to online dating. Has anyone in here dated in the last 15 years? Don't do it. Walk away now, find your cave, it's okay. And just as I was about to give up on my dating, and my plans were to just join a monastery somewhere, and I met the love of my life. A beautiful, loving woman with 2 kids. And as we embarked on our life together, or as we met, I had no clue that we would end up sharing our lives together. And initially, the thought of marriage was about as scary as jumping in a car with Stevie Wonder behind the wheel. There was no way I was ready for this. But at the same time, I couldn't live without her. So we planned for our wedding. We planned for our marriage. Yeah, this is where you throw that saying from Mike Tyson into the mix. Because the one thing that we did not properly plan or prepare for was the fact that our children would not be like the Brady Bunch. There was not a blending that you see on TV. Honestly, it is the toughest thing to deal with 2 groups of people, loving both of them and knowing that they don't love each other the same way you love them. But we get through it. The one thing that I can say is that our children don't hate each other. They're not rivals. They're not like cat and mouse or the Crips and the Bloods. They're just children that haven't yet come together. And that's okay, because we have to learn to be patient and understand that these things happen. The one thing that I've learned and that I hope to express to you all is that it doesn't matter what your plan is. Because Dwight Eisenhower said that plans are useless, but the planning is indispensable. So whatever it is that you're planning in life, whether it be love, whether it be parenting, it is all, the thing that's most important is that you work toward making your life better. Being able to get up from that punch that may have knocked you down. That is what I've gotten out of this throughout my life. I thank you for allowing me to share this, Mr. Toastmaster.